We've got some guys battling some things that happen this time of year. Nothing of major significance, but stuff we need to monitor. Outside of that, obviously, we've got a big week in front of us with a good Wisconsin team who has had some great wins on the season and had a significant injury that during this previous stretch. But Tyler Wall's back. They're tough. They've got a dynamic guard. They're well coached, and will be a fun challenge here on Thursday night. Questions?
Yeah, Chris, we've talked about this. You lose EJ, you lose Malachi, you bring in 3 or 4 really good guys. But what's the expectation, you've done this a while, of the evolution of those guys really making large-scale impact?
Talking about our freshmen?
Yes. Because you've got one that has.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's, if you bring 4 guys in, you expect one maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing with a few of those guys, Rob, is those guys really beginning to make. It's not like they haven't made impacts, but Felix's impact during the Iowa game, during the Indiana game, was significant. It's not been the only game, but I think if you watch us closely, you're seeing what he can be. And he's already impacted us at this level, in some ways maybe even more so than we anticipated. But his defensive impact has been significant. He was our best guy on Trace the other night. Roddy has had really good moments here in this last stretch. Bruce was the one that was probably most consistent earliest, and I think he's fighting his way through kind of the freshman wall a little bit. And then obviously Bryce's scoring has been phenomenal during this stretch. So really pleased with all 4 of those guys. They just have come at a different pace in terms of their impact.
6 months ago, we gave you truth. Is this about what you thought this team would be? Maybe a little underwhelming, if you could go back and say, given the changes, given the transfers, and given the gelling of a team?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in a lot of ways I understood that there were going to be some challenges given our the newness of the team and the youth that we decided to kind of go with. But obviously, you're disappointed with the first round of Big Ten games. And I think there have been some moments where we've had an opportunity to capitalize, and we just haven't been able to do that. But certainly you go into a season like this and you do understand that, like any team, but particularly one that was the makeup of ours, was going to have some challenges.
And Justice misses a year. How much ultimately do you think that has an effect on a player, any player, when you really aren't here for that?
Well, I think it affects him for sure. He probably wouldn't want to use it as an excuse, but I think it affects him, because he had a sit-out year when he got here, back when guys had to sit out, and then he had the year of last year of his foot or of his groin area. So there's no question that that's affected him. But Justice is in control of finishing this as well as he can finish it, and he's got to continue to elevate his play, his leadership, his motor, and those are the things we're challenging him with.
Coach, you talked about the expectations for this team and kind of figuring that out, not knowing exactly maybe what those would be coming into the year with the youth and everything like that. But just in the final 10-game stretch, is there a bar or something that would constitute kind of a success for you in this last stretch in your mind?
Yeah, I wouldn't, sitting 11 games that are guaranteed right now, I wouldn't want to necessarily put a number on that, because I think you can get lost in the macro and in the big picture of things. I think right now I can tell you that we want to improve in specific areas like rebounding and a few other areas. But right now, obviously, as I mentioned, we're it's hard not to be disappointed with the first 10 games of league play. So our challenge is Let's finish this, obviously in a way we feel good about. What specifically that looks like, I'm not really interested in getting into. What I do want to focus on is just improving in those specific areas that we need to improve in.
You mentioned rebounding. I wonder what are the other big areas that maybe, from comparing what you guys did before January to, after that first game in January, what you see as the biggest things?
I think continued ball movement. Offensively, the ball's got to move more, and it has in stretches. I'd like for us to shoot a little bit better and probably take a few more threes than what we've taken. And then just generally our defense, our transition defense and our team defense. I thought it had taken some strides, but it took a step back in the Indiana game.
You talked about ball movement. You talked about Bruce on your radio show a little bit and asking him to be a little more aggressive maybe and take another chance or two. What is it like coaching him through some of that and trying to get him maybe back to some of the things he was doing a month ago?
Yeah, I think he just has to be Bruce, and Bruce is a young man who really, he's a coach's dream. He wants to do what the coach asks and expect, and he's tough. And again, we talked about the volume of minutes that he played. I just think there are opportunities. I'm not necessarily saying in terms of shots, but I think there are opportunities to maybe make plays with the ball that he's got to take advantage of a little bit more than what he has.
And you mentioned last week, like including him in some of those captains' meetings. Do you consider him a captain right now?
I think we're starting to see his voice and hear his voice a lot more. I think he's an everyday guy. I think while he may not be that necessarily a name right now, I think most guys would look at him as being one of the leaders on our group.
Did that just sort of emerge organically as he's gone through this stretch?
Yeah, I think byproduct of the position and the fact that he's a consistent worker at him and has consistent effort.
When you have freshmen like Roddy and Felix, who maybe aren't going to make the immediate impact that some of the other, Bruce and Bryce have, what do the conversations have to be like coming into the year? Look, you're going to see time, you're going to grow, but as you were talking about on the radio, like Roddy can be a guy that maybe as a sophomore can really do some things for you. How do you handle that when guys come in with expectations and whatnot?
I think you show them examples, and we have examples. EJ went from averaging 14 minutes a game and 5.5 points a game to first team All-League in 1 year, one off season. His opportunity, he was playing behind the guys freshman year. He had a great off season. He was really gifted. We knew he was going to have a breakout sophomore year. Everybody in the program knew it. And you show them specific examples of guys that you feel like have the opportunity to have breakout years. And I think those are certainly two examples.
And the growth of those guys, you touched on a little bit on the radio, but how important is it that you need to see that while still, getting the progress of the team as a whole, but knowing that there is a future there that includes those guys stepping into bigger roles?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we've talked about this. Those guys have to play consistent minutes, both for our team now and certainly for our team moving forward. I just think those guys those freshmen need game experience. And that's what we've tried to do really from the jump this year, even when maybe, they needed to play through some things.
You talked about your radio show playing Felix and Zed at the same time. We saw that a little bit against Indiana. How much more can Felix do at this point in the season than maybe at the start of the season? How much has he grown, and how much more can he take on?
Well, I think his footwork's gotten better in the low post, so he's got the ability, I think, to score some in the low post. And he's going to be a really good player. I've said that. He's going to be a really good player, and he's got great length, great athleticism. He's going to be able. He's got good enough touch to score. He'll make free throws at a higher level. I don't want to put too much on him, but he's just got to keep growing. He's growing in front of our eyes, and like I said, he really impacted a high-level front line the other day. His length bothered them.
And then you mentioned that tandem can help in rebounding, of course, but what other things can you guys do to be better at rebounding? Is it just...
Yeah, I mean, we have to keep working on it. I mean, we've probably worked on it more than we ever have. We've got to keep working on it, and somehow I've got to get through to him at a higher level on how important that is. So I do think, again, that Zed-Felix combination may not be something we see as much this year, but it'll certainly be something we do moving forward.
I was going to ask about Felix as well. Just has he gotten to the point where perhaps you even consider going to a straight rotation of give me your best 3 minutes and get out? And maybe would that help Zed, who's so injury prone that 25, 30 minutes a game is driving him into the ground, that if he only had to play 20 minutes a game, the best 3 and 4 minute dollops, maybe you get something out of both of them.
So you're saying plays?
Rotate them.
Oh, rotate them. Yeah, every 3 minutes you're saying? Yeah, we've done that in certain games, Steve, and I think we could look at it for sure. I think foul trouble sometimes hinders that, where you can maybe do that to start the game, but it's hard to do that when somebody has 2 fouls. But, we have looked at that because in Zed's case, he can get tired pretty quickly.
On Tanner Holden, it seems like his season is in need of a restart after not playing much there at Indiana. Just what were the hopes of him coming in, and what kind of led to the point where he just didn't make the cut the other night? I don't know what can be done to kind of get him going to where he's making the kind of positive contributions he made on an NCAA team a year ago.
Well, Tanner's a good player, and I think has done some good things for our team. The reality is this time of year, the rotation always gets trimmed a little bit, Steve, and I think that's the case with our team.
Back to rebounding real quick. Age-old question. How much of it's technique? How much of it is want to, effort?
I think it's, I'd weigh more heavily to pursuit of the ball, quickness to the ball, strong hands, ability to get off a blockout, and pursuit of the ball versus technique. Rebounding usually translates. It translates from college to the NBA. It usually translates from high school to the NBA. We have better rebounders than what they're doing right now, and that's what we've got to challenge them with. And that's what's in front of us. We were a good rebounding team for stretches of this season, but just have not the last month.
Chris, do you see progress here over the course, or is it now time to, hey, the last third of the season, let's see what we can get done?
Progress with our team, you're saying,
Correct.
Clay? Yeah, I see pockets of progress, and then we have moments where we can regress, but I do see pockets of progress. I thought we had some good stretches of play the other night. Just the last 4 minutes of the first half were too damaging, but I thought we had stretches of play that were improvements for sure, and obviously we played well against Iowa.
Is this part of the process? I mean, you write this off, oh, this is a lost season, or did we get the growing pains out of the way that next year, hey, we're ready?
Well, listen, I don't want to make too many statements about the season when we have 11 games left.
Sure.
So I think let the story be written. Let's see how much better we can get and grow, and how much better we can improve. And that's our focus right now, Clay. And I certainly wouldn't want to do an autopsy of the season with 11 games to go.
After the game, talking to Zed and Sean, asked both of them they talked about leadership, and you talked about leadership as well, and asked them about how do you try to bring that out? What do you try to do? And they both kind of gave their answers. And I just wondered, from your viewpoint as a coach you've had wins, you've had losses, you never had a stretch kind of quite like this.
Right.
What gets you through it? What do you do? How do you fight through this? What do you do to try to maintain things moving forward and try to keep things going in a better direction?
I think, listen, it's certainly been a hard stretch, but I think when you're in a position like this, the reality is when you go through something difficult, you have, a couple different choices. One is to kind of look inward and to, think about yourself. And the reality is there's a lot of people that are impacted, and that's my responsibility right now, is our staff and our players, and making sure they're thinking, the right way, and that they are being encouraged and yet challenged and held accountable in the right way. And that's really my focus, because I think right now I think when you're in any type of leadership position, and when you go through something as challenging as what we're going through, the answer is to not look more inward. It's to find ways to give more and think of others, and that's what we're trying to do. It's what I'm trying to do. I'm not sure I'm great at it, but it's what I'm trying to do.
Wisconsin's kind of scuffling a little bit, same maybe as you guys are. Just their defense is kind of their calling card. It was 20-16 the other day when they played Illinois at halftime.
Yeah.
Just the word Wisconsin and guard and their style of play, what comes to mind, I guess?
They played a little bit faster last year, and I as I'm studying them here, I'll learn more. I think their injury was significant for them during this stretch, Steve, because he's such an important player for them, Tyler Wall. But listen, I think they're a team that's always going to be disciplined, that's always going to be really hard to score on, that's always going to be a low turnover team, and I think they obviously had a tremendous backcourt last year, and one of those players is returning. But they're always a really disciplined, focused team. They have a lot to play for. We have a lot to play for. It should be a great Big Ten matchup.
This style of play thing comes up from time to time, and Rutgers is known for its defense. Is it entirely legal that a half ends 20-16, or are there illegal things being done defensively during the course of the game? I mean, is there too much contact away from the ball? What is restricting scoring in these games to this degree?
Yeah, I'd have to.
I know every team's different.
No, I'd have to look at that game specifically to maybe give you a better answer on that. Do I think that the game is too physical at times? I do. I think it sometimes is not called maybe as consistently from game to game, and maybe that's part of it. But also, it's some teams are a little bit more deliberate in how they attack, and our tempo and our pace has been a little bit faster this year. We've tried to play a little bit faster. I think the reality is this time of year. You got to remember, too, that they had just played each other like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. So imagine you pour hours and hours of preparation into the first game, well, then you play them 10 days later. You got a pretty good feel for it, and I think that impacts offense. Anything else? All right, thanks.